10 years ago, the world's connection to other dimensions opened, and people referred to these gates as dungeons. With the appearance of various monsters, humans with different abilities emerged, and they were called hunters. Our protagonist, Sung Jin-Woo, is an E-rank hunter. While traveling and mocking himself, he admits that being a hunter is quite embarrassing for him. He's not only often injured but also hovers on the edge of death. To pay for his mother's high hospital bills, Jin-Woo, who has no other skills, has no choice but to become a hunter. The E-rank dungeon is the lowest level instance, and most people would solo it without a healer. But our protagonist, as you might expect, is beaten up in an E-rank dungeon, which earns him the title of the weakest hunter among humans. At the entrance of the dungeon, a group of hunters, including Sung Jin-Woo, starts to organize a raid. Participating in the raid is a quick way to earn some extra money. The team is led by C-rank hunter Song Chi-yeol and B-rank healer Lee Ju-hee, with a total of 17 hunters involved. As the blue light flashes, the hunters enter the dungeon and use their skills to eliminate the monsters. The hunters also obtain magic crystal stones dropped by the monsters, which are valuable for buying weapons or exchanging for currency. During the rest period, someone accidentally discovers a hidden entrance, which leads to the legendary double dungeon. Since the difficulty of the double dungeon is unknown, team leader Song suggests voting on whether to enter. When the vote is tied, Sung Jin-Woo, the last person to vote, casts the decisive vote to go in. He has no choice. His sister's tuition and his mother's medical bills are waiting for him. For his family, he chooses to push himself. Upon opening the giant door, the group arrives at a mysterious palace. The first thing they see is a row of giant stone statues holding weapons or musical instruments, creating a chilling atmosphere. The most unique statue is the one with a crown in the center. Next to the statues is a stone tablet explaining the rules of the dungeon. First, worship the god. Second, praise the god. Third, prove your faith. Those who violate the rules won't leave here alive. Suddenly, the room's door closes, and someone attempts to leave by opening the door. As expected, something goes wrong. The nearest giant statue raises its spear and cuts the person attempting to open the door in half. Everyone is immediately cautious, but at this moment, the crowned statue's eyes emit a laser, instantly killing half of the group. Even Song loses an arm because he can't dodge in time. Sung Jin-Woo remembers the rules on the stone tablet about worshipping the god. It seems that the god wants everyone to kneel and worship. As the people kneel and worship devoutly, the crowned statue shows a satisfied smile. However, at this moment, the seated crowned statue stands up, and its immense size creates a suffocating pressure. The statue approaches the group step by step, and if they can't find the right solution, everyone will die here. Sung Jin-Woo and the others, even after following the dungeon's rule of praising the god, find the statues still approaching them. At this moment, Jin-Woo shouts out the second rule, praise the god quickly. A priest in the group steps forward, using his expertise in flattery to praise the god with colorful language, which amazes everyone. Before the priest finishes speaking, a statue crushes him underfoot. The group realizes that this kind of verbal praise is useless, and they start to scatter. Meanwhile, the other statues in the room begin to attack. While dodging, Jin-Woo notices that the statues holding instruments don't attack, so he tells everyone to run towards those statues. Indeed, those who reach the statues holding instruments are unharmed. As they continue their desperate escape, the statues holding instruments begin to play music. Everyone runs towards the safe spots, cursing their lack of speed. Jin-Woo pulls Ju-hee towards a statue holding a drum, but the statue doesn't play. They quickly move to another safe statue. Jin-Woo slides towards a statue, but he mistakes a shield statue for an instrument holding one. The shield statue raises its shield and smashes it down on Jin-Woo, severing his right leg. Without thinking, Jin-Woo endures the pain and crawls to a safe statue. Only 6 people remain, all injured. The statues don't allow them any time to rest. With a loud rumble, an altar drops into the hall, followed by the third challenge, prove your faith. Seeing the altar, the group understands that one person must be sacrificed. But who would willingly sacrifice themselves for others? The hunters approach the altar, and suddenly, blue flames ignite around it. At that moment, the previously sealed door opens, seemingly leading to survival. As the group rejoices, the statues also start moving slowly towards the altar. However, as long as the statues are being watched, they won't move. This means that if the hunters keep an eye on each other, there is no danger. But then, the blue flames around the altar start to die down, seemingly counting down. No one knows what will happen if the countdown reaches 0. Under enormous psychological pressure, someone finally breaks and, despite the others' attempts to stop them, madly runs toward the open door to freedom. Surprisingly, that person walks out completely, but the door closes a little immediately afterward. The group looks at one another, afraid of being too slow and getting trapped by the closing door. However, Jin-Woo remembers that the rules on the stone tablet haven't been completed, so it's impossible for everyone to leave alive. Jin-Woo tries to convince everyone that the door is just an illusion, and that they can only survive by completing all the rules. However, under the pressure of the unknown countdown and facing life and death, the dark side of human nature is infinitely magnified. One by one, the hunters leave the altar and run towards the door. Now, only 3 remain: Jin-Woo, Mr. Song, and Ju-hee. The 3 of them cannot keep their eyes on the statues at all angles, and the outcome seems inevitable. Mr. Song decides to stay behind, urging Ju-hee to help Jin-Woo leave. However, Ju-hee is already exhausted from treating Jin-Woo's injuries and can't move her arms or legs. Jin-Woo makes a choice. He tells old Song to carry Ju-hee and run. If only he dies, it's the best outcome for these vulnerable people. Mr. Song looks at Jin-Woo with a different gaze, no longer with contempt but with the affirmation of a man. Mr. Song carries Ju-hee and rushes out through the stone door, leaving Jin-Woo alone on the altar, determined to take at least one statue down with him. A statue raises a sharp blade, piercing through Jin-Woo's chest, lifting him up, and placing him on the altar. In his final moments, Jin-Woo shouts in anger and despair, "I don't want to die!" Just as the statue is about to deliver the final blow to Jin-Woo, a system notification appears before Jin-Woo's eyes, and everything around him freezes. Prompting: "You have completed all the necessary requirements of the secret quest, Courage of the Weak. You have earned the right to become a player. Will you accept? You do not have much time remaining. If you refuse, your heart will stop approximately 0.02 seconds later. Will you accept?" Faced with this life or death question, Jin-Woo decisively chooses to become a player. Words appear before his eyes, and in a flash of golden light, Jin-Woo finds himself lying in a hospital bed. Was it all a dream? But everything felt so real, and his severed leg is now completely healed. At that moment, 2 agents from the Korean Hunters Association's monitoring division arrive to perform a mana test on him. It turns out that awakened hunters have a very small chance of receiving a second awakening. The agents believe Jin-Woo might have undergone this second awakening since he survived such a difficult dungeon. With a nervous heart, Jin-Woo places his hand on the mana testing device, revealing a shocking number, 10. Even the weakest E-rank hunters have a mana level of around 70. Jin-Woo maintains his title as the weakest, and the monitoring division loses interest in him. However, Jin-Woo discovers that no one else can see the system interface that has appeared before him. He also finds daily tasks within the system, with a cool name: Path of the Strong. The task content is even more terrifying: 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and running 10 kilometers. Jin-Woo wonders if he's supposed to become Saitama in One Punch Man or what. Faced with such a training regimen, Jin-Woo makes a bold decision to sleep on it. But he doesn't notice that there are penalties for failing the daily tasks. He never would have imagined that the punishment is surviving 4 hours in a desert. When Jin-Woo is teleported to the desert, a massive creature appears, a giant centipede. But let's not forget, our protagonist now has a cheat-like ability. In a split second, Jin-Woo makes a decision and runs. 4 hours later, he returns to the hospital room, covered in sand. If he had been any later, they might have started filming a movie about him. He now realizes the power of the system interface. By completing daily tasks, he can not only receive rewards but also upgrade his attributes using the system. After a few days of hard work, Jin-Woo looks at a dropped Class E dungeon key in his hand and considers the results of his recent training. Player Jin-Woo is level 1, with 100 HP, 19 strength, and various other stats. He wants to see if he can solo clear a dungeon and whether the forced tasks can make him stronger. With a flash of blue light, Jin-Woo begins the first step on his path to becoming a king. As he enters the dungeon, the system informs him that he can only return to reality by killing the dungeon boss or using the return crystal. Jin-Woo realizes he has no way to escape if he encounters danger and hesitates, lost in thought at the bottom of the staircase. After struggling for a while, Jin-Woo reluctantly moves forward, greeted by a foul smell. He barely dodges the sudden attack of a beast-like magical creature. He cannot afford to lose the second chance he barely got. As he dodges, he notices the changes in his body. He feels awakened and delivers 2 powerful punches. However, the damage is only 0.5. Jin-Woo immediately realizes that his fists alone can't deal significant damage. He needs a weapon. Desperate, Jin-Woo summons the system's item list and pulls out the only weapon available, a sword. Although he's not sure why it's there, he doesn't have time to think, and quickly finishes off the monster in front of him. He discovers that the sword belongs to an old king and that the system notifies him that with each level up, all his attributes will increase by 1 point. As more creatures attack, Jin-Woo, having experienced the terrifying pressure of the stone statues, finds these monsters rather weaker and shows no mercy. He starts a rampage, continuously killing monsters, leveling up, and moving deeper into the dungeon. He takes a deep breath and plunges back into battle once more. As the system announces that he has obtained the title Wolf Slayer, the monsters begin to fear him and hesitate to attack. Jin-Woo takes advantage of this to clear the battlefield, wondering if he should return or continue leveling up by killing more monsters. He eventually reaches level 15 and can clearly feel himself becoming stronger. He also learns how to gauge monster threats. If the system displays a monster's name in white, it poses no threat, and he can attack without hesitation. If the name is in orange, the monster is of equal strength. However, if it's in red, the system advises him to run away without looking back. As he reaches the final boss room, he decides to proceed. Suddenly, the boss attacks, sending Jin-Woo flying with a single hit, and his sword shatters due to insufficient durability. Clutching the broken sword, he stares at the orange-named creature, the serpent swamp ruler, Blue Poison Fang's Rasaka. As the serpent approaches, a fierce battle is about to begin. Jin-Woo recalls the stone statue's moment, and understands that only power can ensure survival in this world of the strong preying on the weak. Determined to become stronger to better protect himself and his family, Jin-Woo charges at the serpent and grabs it. Without a weapon, he decides to use his hands as a weapon. Therefore, he invests all his attribute points in strength, delivering a powerful blow to the serpent, which collapses in defeat. Jin-Woo levels up 3 times in a row, reaching level 18, and even obtains a more powerful weapon than the previous sword. Jin-Woo obtains a C-class dagger and a class purified venom. He collapses on the ground, panting heavily, and enjoying the exhilaration of solo leveling for the first time. He can feel himself getting stronger. As the system sends a notification, the dungeon reverts to normal. Jin-Woo is stopped by a soldier who informs him that nearby monsters have entered the real world through a portal and hunter support is urgently needed. As his level increases, Jin-Woo can clearly sense the ultimate boss in the distance. It's time to test his strength against a blue glowing stone golem. 80 rank, 1 D rank, and 1 B rank healer in the city cannot defeat the golem. Jin-Woo casually throws his damaged sword at the stone golem, defeating the boss. The stone golem falls to the ground, and by the time the other hunters react, Jin-Woo has already left. After all, he is still weak and cannot let anyone know the secret of his leveling up. After returning from the dungeon, Jin-Woo continues to train and level up, and his body undergoes noticeable changes, growing taller and more muscular. While training, a nurse suddenly enters the room, impressed by his physique. Jin-Woo realizes the secret to the strength of Saitama is indeed training. After being discharged from the hospital, Jin-Woo returns home, surprising his sister with his transformation. While he is still reveling in his newfound abilities, a call from the landlord about rent brings him back to reality. For hunters, the fastest way to make money is to enter dungeons and gather magic crystals to sell. So Jin-Woo decides to enter a dungeon again. This time, he joins a C-rank team as a filler hunter. The Hunter Association has specific participation requirements for each dungeon rank, and those not meeting the criteria can only enter as filler hunters. Filler hunters don't receive a share of the dungeon rewards, only a commission. Jin-Woo takes on the role of a filler hunter, joining the C-rank dungeon and effortlessly making money without fighting. Suddenly, a shining figure appears, a fellow filler hunter named Eugene Ho. Although he is only D rank, he wears expensive equipment. However, this rich second-generation guy isn't cold but rather warm and friendly. Seeing that Sung Jin-Woo is only E rank, he pats him on the shoulder and says, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Soon, everyone enters the dungeon. The others are in charge of fighting monsters while Sung Jin-Woo takes care of carrying the supplies, following closely behind. As it's too dark, they light torches. Suddenly, many insects and magical beasts drop from the sky. Facing the massive number of insects and magical beasts, the attack team starts their coordinated assault, quickly resolving the situation. Sung Jin-Woo keenly senses that the team leader, Hwang Dong-suk, is giving them an ill-intentioned look, as if they are dead weight. As they approach the boss chamber, the team leader Hwang Dong-suk leaves Jin-Woo and Eugene-ho behind to guard the entrance, claiming he needs to retrieve tools to mine the magic crystal. Hwang Dong-suk and his team leave the entrance of the boss's lair, and he orders the mage to trigger an explosion. With a loud bang, the entrance is blocked by fallen rocks. Sung Jin-Woo realizes they have been betrayed, as these people are the lizards, which is a slang term for hunters who abuse their powers to commit crimes inside dungeons. As the things happen inside dungeons never go public and there's no security cameras around to record crimes if they happen, it's very easy to commit murder or robbery and get away with it, as there's no feasible way to obtain the evidence to prove that they actually happened. In this case, they not only want to monopolize the magic crystals but also plan to kill Eugene-ho, whose equipment alone is worth more than the rewards from the dungeon. As the explosion rings out, the final boss, a giant spider, wakes up and approaches Sung Jin-Woo and Eugene-ho. Despite being afraid, Eugene-ho bravely stands in front of Sung Jin-Woo, earning his respect. Sung Jin-Woo puts down the backpack, his face showing no emotion. Compared to the stone statue, this spider is nothing. Sung Jin-Woo calmly steps forward, takes out the poison fang from his system, and is about to start his solo fight again. Sung Jin-Woo launches an attack against the spider, dealing massive damage. The spider, with its thick skin and flesh, doesn't seem injured. However, Sung Jin-Woo isn't aiming to cause injury, but rather to trigger short bursts of pain, causing blood loss and paralysis. As Sung Jin-Woo continues his flashy solo attack, the D-rank hunter Eugene-ho is dumbfounded. He thought Sung Jin-Woo was E-rank hunter who needed protection, but now he feels deceived by this seemingly innocent guy. As Eugene-ho is surprised, Sung Jin-Woo activates his new skill, Sprint, increasing his speed by 30%. He rushes toward the spider, taking advantage of his speed. However, his stamina is greatly depleted, and he is counterattacked by the boss. In this critical moment, Sung Jin-Woo remembers that he has a reward from his daily tasks, which can fully restore his status. He immediately uses it, reviving on the spot with full health. Laughing, he says, "I, Sung Jin-Woo, am back," and strikes again. In an instant, he drives the poison fang into the spider's eye, triggering its paralysis. He then mercilessly slashes the spider to death. Sung Jin-Woo levels up 3 times, leaving Eugene-ho, who watches his solo performance, sweating profusely. He wonders if such a strong person could be an E-rank hunter, or if he's a cheater. What is a cheater? They are those who hide their levels, specializing in killing hunters in low-level dungeons. Eugene-ho quickly understands the situation and picks up the baggage they had left behind. "Brother, you've worked hard. Are you thirsty? Please drink some water and don't kill me." At this moment, the entrance is blasted open, and the previous attackers return, but they are shocked by what they see. This wasn't the outcome they expected. They thought only Eugene-ho could have the strength to kill the boss. They decide to join forces with Eugene-han, either he kills Jin-Woo and joins their squad or they kills him. However, faced with life or death, he resolutely chooses to stand with Sung Jin-Woo against the attackers. At this moment, Sung Jin-Woo's system issues an emergency mission to kill enemies with murderous intent towards players in the vicinity. If he doesn't comply, his heart will stop. While in shock, a fireball is launched at Sung Jin-Woo, but he is still alive after the blast. In this world where the strong prey on the weak, only by becoming powerful can one protect oneself. The system forces him to murder, but is it just for the system's needs? It needs a powerful version of him, and they use each other. Sung Jin-Woo slowly stands up, staring at everyone. "As hunters, are you prepared to be hunted?" In an instant, Sung Jin-Woo takes care of all the enemies, leaving only the trembling team leader, Hwang Dong-suk. However, a leader is a leader for a reason, and at this critical moment, he tries to play his trump card. He says to Sung Jin-Woo, "Do you know who my brother is?" However, he doesn't realize that Jin-Woo doesn't care anymore. With a single slash, Sung Jin-Woo cuts off the team leader's head, earning a reward, the ability to recover his status, an additional skill point, and the skill Bloodlust. Within a minute, he can reduce the abilities of a designated enemy by 50%. Following the recent events, Jin-Woo has already caught the attention of the Hunter Association. After all, it's quite strange for the two weakest members to survive and even defeat the boss in a C-rank dungeon. At this time, Sung Jin-Woo is at home with his sister, drinking beer and eating fried chicken. Due to his system, Sung Jin-Woo is automatically immune to any toxins, including alcohol. With this boldness, Jin-Woo decides to use the dungeon item he obtained last time, which can reduce physical damage taken but has some negative side effects. However, with the help of the system, the negative side effects are automatically removed without problem. At this time, Yoo Jin-ho approaches Jin-Woo, revealing his true identity as the son of a top-tier company's owner, offering to pay him handsomely to help him clear 20 dungeons. With the 20 dungeon victories under their belt, Yoo Jin-ho and Jin-Woo will start their own guild, proving themselves to Yoo Jin-ho's father. Sung Jin-Woo, being an ordinary person, is overwhelmed by the offer but agrees on the condition that only the two of them can participate in the dungeon raids. As they discuss the details, Hwang Dong-soo, the brother of Hwang Dong-suk whom Jin-Woo killed earlier, learns of his brother's death and decides to avenge him. Because leaving the guild suddenly will cause it to collapse, Hwang Dong-soo plans his revenge for 2 weeks later. The next day, Sung Jin-Woo has a sudden idea to complete extra daily tasks, earning a key to enter a demon dungeon. He uses the S-rank dungeon key and prepares to solo the dungeon again. Upon entering, he sees a massive three-headed dog. As the giant wolf charges at him, he activates his title. When dealing with beast-type monsters, the Wolf Slayer title increases all abilities by 40%. Sung Jin-Woo uses the sprint skill, launching several attacks, and then activates the Bloodlust skill. However, due to the high resistance of the Firewolf, his attacks are ineffective, and his own health keeps dropping. At the critical moment, Sung Jin-Woo uses the system's reward to restore his condition and successfully counterattacks, obtaining various loot items. He gains an agility and perception-enhancing necklace, a key to the Demon Castle's gate, and the fangs of the three-headed dog. Even the Hell Gatekeeper Cerberus is incredibly powerful. Although he levels up 4 times, he realizes that his strength is still not enough. Opening the gate now would be like giving his life away, so he decisively exits the dungeon, planning to grow stronger before returning. A few days later, Sung Jin-Woo is called by the Hunters Association to complete a special task. The participants in this mission are all survivors of the previous dungeon raid. Additionally, there's a B-rank hunter from the Inspection Division leading a group of criminals with hunter abilities to complete the dungeon together. The participation of criminals is a unique way for those with hunter abilities to redeem themselves and reduce their sentences. Seeing the purple-haired hunter from the Inspection Division, Sung Jin-Woo advises his friend, Joo-hee, not to join. However, upon hearing that Sung Jin-Woo is participating, Joo-hee firmly decides to follow. With a flash of blue light, everyone enters the dungeon. A group of green goblins rushes towards them, but the prisoners and hunters easily take care of them. As the group ventures deeper, they come across 3 paths. Tae-shik suggests splitting up to reduce the time spent fighting monsters. He takes the prisoners on one path, Sung Jin-Woo, Mr. Song, and Joo-hee take another, while Mr. Kim and another person take the third. Sung Jin-Woo uses his perception to choose the path leading to the ultimate boss, as fighting the boss yields more experience than fighting smaller monsters. However, Jin-Woo is concerned about Kong Tae-shik from the inspection department. After the criminals dispatch a group of green demons, Tae-shik surprisingly starts killing the criminals. It turns out he is the true cheater, having accepted bribes before entering the dungeon. As Tae-shik kills the last person, Mr. Kim and another hunter stumble upon the scene. Realizing the paths are connected, Tae-shik eliminates the last criminal and turns to attack the 2 witnesses. Hearing a scream, Jin-Woo and the others sense a strong killing intent and quickly head back to check. As they approach the entrance, Jin-Woo realizes something is wrong and swiftly blocks an attack aimed at Joo-hee. Tae-shik is surprised Jin-Woo can block the attack but remains confident. Regardless, Jin-Woo notices Mr. Kim's critical condition and asks Joo-hee to heal him. Unfortunately, due to excessive blood loss, even a S-rank healer is unable to save him. Before dying, Mr. Kim apologizes to Jin-Woo for leaving them behind while escaping previously. Because of the level gap, Mr. Song decides to engage in close combat and looks for an opportunity to use his skills. He picks up Mr. Kim's sword and starts attacking. However, the assassins are too fast, and Mr. Song is defeated. Just as Tae-shik is about to deliver the final blow, Mr. Song uses his magic skill. After an explosion, Tae-shik emerges unscathed from the smoke. Jin-Woo once again intercepts Tae-shik's attack, enraging him. Knowing that Jin-Woo is a C-rank hunter, Tae-shik quickly deduces that Jin-Woo must be a reawakened hunter, which means he should be worth more money. Launching a more fierce attack, Tae-shik relies on his faster speed to constantly suppress Sung Jin-Woo's offense. Although Sung Jin-Woo's eyes can keep up, his body's reaction is falling behind. As the fight between the two becomes more intense, Sung Jin-Woo's system can no longer hold back and issues a new quest: eliminate the target with murderous intent towards the player. Sung Jin-Woo smiles faintly, finally waiting for this opportunity that he cannot waste. He immediately sprints, activating a skill that increases his speed by 30%, catching Tae-shik off guard. However, Tae-shik is unaware that Sung Jin-Woo's weapon has a side effect, which triggers a blood loss paralysis effect, making him more confident in his victory. Unexpectedly, Tae-shik's level resistance is too high, granting him immunity, and he instantly activates his invisibility skill. Jin-Woo thinks it's a waste to use such a skill for fighting instead of doing more important things. Taking advantage of his invisibility, Tae-shik quickly disables Jin-Woo's leg and taunts him, asking if he can still move fast. As soon as the words are spoken, Sung Jin-Woo uses a system benefit to restore his condition, instantly regaining full health and energy. As they continue to fight, Jin-Woo seems to have found a way to counter the invisibility skill by sensing the opponent's murderous aura. Just as Tae-shik launches an attack, Sung Jin-Woo instantly captures the aura and activates his counter skill. Seizing the opportunity while the opponent is unable to move, Jin-Woo finishes him off with a single strike. With Tae-shik's death, he drops an item, rune, stealth, containing the invisibility cloak skill, and the system also rewards Jin-Woo with 5 additional ability points. Jin-Woo leaves the others behind since he cannot let the opportunity go to waste, deciding to solo another boss before leaving. With Jin-Woo's strength, even a D-rank boss is no match for him. As soon as he exits the dungeon, he encounters Woo Jin-chul, the chief of the monitoring division, questioning who killed Tae-shik. At this moment, Mr. Song steps forward and claims responsibility. Woo Jin-chul looks down on him, saying that a C-rank hunter can't possibly kill a B-rank hunter. Mr. Song points at Juhee, saying his support is a B-rank healer, and they take Mr. Song away for further investigation. As Woo Jin-chul leaves, he gives Jin-Woo a meaningful look, reminding him about the previous incident with Hwang Dong-suk's attack team, warning that his brother Hwang Dong-shu, an S-rank hunter, might be targeting him. To avoid being threatened by an S-rank hunter, Jin-Woo needs to increase his level quickly. Fortunately, he has signed a contract with Eugene Ho for 20 dungeon raids, providing an excellent leveling opportunity. The next day, they arrive at the agreed dungeon entrance, but the team members that Eugene Ho brings along are not very promising. Despite this, the duo enters the dungeon and emerges victorious in less than 15 minutes. As the portal closes, it confirms that the boss has been defeated. They immediately head to the next dungeon. Their incredible clearing speed catches the attention of the White Tiger Guild's scout chief, who decides to recruit them. Inside the dungeons, monsters are terrified of Sung Jin-Woo, who continuously grinds for levels, eventually reaching level 39. He masters advanced dagger techniques, striking vital points, and invisibility. Sung Jin-Woo starts to familiarize himself with his new skills while leveling up. As his level increases, the system announces the start of the job advancement quest. At this moment, the White Tiger Guild members arrive at the portal, and Sung Jin-Woo and Eugene Ho exit the dungeon. Sung Jin-Woo asks Eugene Ho to clear his schedule for the next day, as completing the job advancement quest and increasing his abilities is his top priority. As Jin-Woo and Eugene Ho exit the dungeon, the White Tiger Guild members quickly approach them for a private chat. Without wasting time, the chief directly offers to pay double what Eugene Ho pays Jin-Woo if he joins their guild. Surprised by their offer, Sung Jin-Woo jokingly asks if they're willing to pay him 4 billion. The guild members confirm the amount, but Sung Jin-Woo reveals that Eugene Ho gave him a building worth 2 billion to secure his cooperation. Seeing the situation, the White Tiger Guild members back off, realizing they can't win this battle. Jin-Woo then begins his job advancement quest, entering the dungeon where he faces an army of armored soldiers, assassin soldiers, mage soldiers, and archer soldiers. The most challenging aspect of this dungeon is that he cannot consume any potions. However, this does not stop our protagonist. Instead, Sung Jin-Woo acquires new sets of equipment and piles of money as he fights his way to the final boss. As he pushes open the door to the boss chamber, an intense cold greets him. In front of him is an empty throne, and beneath it, a fearsome knight emerges, radiating a terrifying aura. The ultimate boss, the Scarlet Ygritte, the leader of the knights, has a dark red nameplate indicating his horrifying power. How will Sung Jin-Woo face this formidable enemy? He's coming, wielding a large sword. Ygritte launches an attack on Sung Jin-Woo, who quickly dodges. A single strike from Ygritte shatters 2 stone pillars behind him. In contrast, Sung Jin-Woo's attack only leaves some marks on Ygritte's armor. As Ygritte's attack misses, Sung Jin-Woo dodges to the side, putting away his weapon since it's ineffective. He has no choice but to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Ygritte seems to sense this and puts down his weapon, removing his cape. The damned chivalry of this knight is truly admirable. Ygritte charges at Sung Jin-Woo, initiating a brutal fight. A single punch from Ygritte sends Sung Jin-Woo into a wall, stuck and unable to get out. Ygritte remains powerful even without his weapon. Since his attacks aren't as strong, Sung Jin-Woo decides to go all out. Sung Jin-Woo runs towards Ygritte, and the two begin an intense battle, exchanging blows. Sung Jin-Woo is sent flying again, landing on the throne. Ygritte immediately summons his weapon and raises his sword to execute the intruder. Sung Jin-Woo suddenly catches the blade with his bare hands. It turns out that the equipment he obtained from the previous dungeons protects his hands from harm. He takes advantage of the situation and stabs Ygritte's eye with a short sword. Throughout the battle, Sung Jin-Woo realized that Ygritte's only weak point was his exposed eyes. He uses a new skill, a precise strike, and continuously attacks the weak point, finally piercing Ygritte's head with his short sword. In the end, the powerful Ygritte is defeated by Sung Jin-Woo, who proceeds to collect the loot. 4 items in total: an S-rank Red Knight helmet that reduces damage by 15%, adds 20 to both stamina and strength, a rune stone, Dominator's Touch, a hearthstone and a leather pouch containing 1.5 million gold coins. Sung Jin-Woo happily gathers everything. Indeed, high risk means high rewards. Jin-Woo notices there is no return portal and wonders if the quest is over yet. Ygritte's death doesn't prompt the end of the quest. Could he have been just a minor enemy? At that moment, a portal appears behind Jin-Woo, and the system announces that the job advancement quest has officially begun. This quest is unusual as it doesn't have a specific target to eliminate. Instead, it requires the player to survive for as long as possible. The longer you survive, the higher your score and the more likely you are to obtain a rare job class. A massive number of armored soldiers emerge from the portal. Sung Jin-Woo thinks about outlasting them and says, "Let's see if I can't disgust you." He initially plans to use stealth to buy time, but a mage uses a detection spell to reveal him. The soldiers immediately attack Jin-Woo, who dodges and uses his bloodlust, which can only last for a minute. He takes advantage of the brief moment to eliminate as many enemies as possible. Even with his full range of abilities, he struggles to keep up, as if mowing a relentless lawn. Surprisingly, only 5 minutes have passed, and he thinks to himself that he's never felt time move so slowly. As Sung Jin-Woo continues to fight in the sea of enemies, his health bar gradually decreases. He considers using the return portal but is suddenly knocked away from it by a powerful strike. Reminded of his past struggles as a weakling, Sung Jin-Woo decides he can't let it end like this. He stands up and charges back into battle, but is unfortunately knocked down again. Just as a soldier is about to deliver the final blow, Sung Jin-Woo disappears.